Thank you.
All right.
You want to make sure that the speaker window is pinned.
Got it.
You know how to do that, right?
I did. Okay.
Okay, perfect.
Mhm.
Yay.
There you go.
Alrighty. Yeah, just when we're not having the interactive, which we don't record anyway, but when we're doing these and record them, um, if people are watching the video and just not the audio, there's just a little box, it's hard to see anything. So, alrighty, thank you. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us for another inner hour. Appreciate it. Okie doke. So, yeah. Alrighty. So, welcome here. If you haven't taken time yet to kind of give yourself a pause moment from the day, please do that. Also, I'll have a couple of brief announcements tonight before we start, but let's start with kind of bringing ourselves back to our spiritual center again. Alrighty. So, a couple of quick announcements. Our friends Nechama and Shuli in Florida, who are here for almost every inner hour, are involved in a family thing this evening. So they are not able to join us, but they send their love to everyone, and ours goes to them.
And blessings.
And, and blessings for sure. That's a Nahama, a true Nahamaism. Yeah. So, yeah. The tonight's program is some readings from, I think they're all from Exodus. Oh, nope, they're not. They're all from the Jewish Bible. Most are from Exodus, a couple are from the prophets, and one from the New Testament. Anyway, so the first reading is from Exodus 3:14. And I'm going to read the most common English translation, and then I'm going to pause after each one a little bit and tell you a bit about them. So this is I'll just read it and then I'll tell you. So God said to Moses, I am who I am. And he said, he is referring to God here, and he said, that is what you should say to the sons of Israel. I am has sent me to you. Now, the background on that briefly is that we could do a whole class just on this actually. There have been long studies done on just this section. Elsewhere in the Torah, like in the story of Abraham and Jacob and different places, pardon me, there's God presents himself in various names. He'll say, I'm God Almighty, which is El Shaddai in Hebrew, meaning the Almighty God or the God of strength, the God of power. Or El Yon, the Most High God, or Adonai, Lord. There's many different names in Hebrew for this divine being, this divine essence that we call God. This is the first place, though, where he specifically says what his name is, not one of his attributes. All of the other things, if you look at them, like El Shalom, the God of peace, El Roy, the God who sees, El Rafa, the God who heals, all these different names by which he's been referred to, up to this point, after this point as well. But this is the first point in the biblical record where he actually says what his name is and the name that people are to use for all generations to come, which is quite a statement. And the reason he says that is because he's now called Moses to step into the role of liberator for the enslaved Hebrew peoples. They're not yet Jews. There's no Judaism yet. That all was after the revelation at Mount Sinai, after they were no longer enslaved in Egypt. But Moses specifically says to him, well, first, Moses doesn't want to do it. He doesn't feel equal to the task. It feels like too much. He doesn't want to do it. I'm betting that at least some of you have that experience in your life, whether it's spiritual or worldly in nature, of not feeling equal to the task that you're given. Well, Moses feels that way too. And you probably know this, but Moses was considered to have a speech impediment, most likely stuttering, that made it difficult for him to communicate. So he always wanted his brother Aaron to speak for him, and recommended God choose Aaron, not him, but God chose Moses anyway. And so in this encounter, Moses doesn't want to do it, finally accepts it, and God says you're to go to the Hebrew people and say, you're going to free them from slavery, and you're going to go to Pharaoh and ask for their freedom, which I don't have a good reference point for that, but imagine like one of the most non-compassionate, sometimes even cruel, very self-obsessed slave owners in any country that had a huge slave labor force, from which they profited greatly. And you're going to go, one of the slaves is going to go to that guy or woman and say, they should let us go. It would be the right thing to do. How well do you think that would go? Which is about how well Moses thought it was going to go. His advantage, of course, was that he was an adopted son of Pharaoh. He lived in the royal house. He was treated as a son of Pharaoh, even though he wasn't by birth. So he had a lot more power and influence than a common person or common slave, for that matter, would. Anyway, Moses says to him, so I need some authority to do this, not just me, little Moshe guy here. I need some authority. Who shall I say is empowering me to do this? Who's sending me? And it's in response to that question that God says what I just read you. I am who I am, and this is what you shall say to the sons of Israel. I am has sent me to you. So there have been numerous philosophies developed around this passage, and there are many mystical ones developed around it as well, in both mystical Christianity and mystical Judaism, and even outside of those traditions. This I am presence, or this I am concept, is spoken of a great deal in many mystical traditions, including many New Age ones like Saint Germain and the Ascended Masters and different things along those lines. And curiously enough, it was written and said originally in Hebrew, and that is not what it says in Hebrew. So, not that there isn't a wonderful idea and philosophy that's been developed that isn't helpful, but the reality is that it's been built on a mistranslation, because that's not what Hebrew says. Just another little bit of a background. In both ancient and modern Hebrew, there are no present tense to be verbs. So if you're kind of rusty on your grammar, what that basically means is, so like right now I'm in the office, or let's pretend it was a classroom, because I know the word for that in Hebrew, it's kita. So, or I'll just say house, in the house. If I were to say in Hebrew, I am in the house, in English it would be I am is a present tense to be verb. I am in the house. So house is beit in Hebrew. The preposition in is b, just an apostrophe b sound. So babeit is in the house. And I is ani. There's actually no am with that. we translate it that way all the time because many times it's used in the Bible. But I am literally just means the pronoun I. We supply the present tense to be verb with it of am, so the sentence makes sense. In Hebrew, if I were to say I am in the house, what it would be is ani babet, which means I in house. Literally, that's what it means. So to make it palatable in English, when we translate it, we say I am in the house. But the am and the the are not there. So Hebrew does have both a past and a future tense. The assumption in Hebrew, and interestingly enough, if you study linguistics, many ancient languages, well, at least the few I've studied, some ancient languages, many perhaps, but the few I've studied, that's common. It is assumed in these ancient languages that if you're talking about anything, you're talking about it right now, what's happening right now. And if you're not, then there's a past tense to indicate this is past, and a future tense to indicate this is future. For those of you who have dogs, you're probably familiar with that because if, for example, we say to our dog, Rafi, that somebody he really knows and likes is coming over, somebody whose name he recognizes, whoever, Lennon is coming over, he gets all excited and runs to the door because he knows the name and he knows coming over, he knows that phrase. So he runs to the door, assuming you're talking about right now. But if we're talking about she's coming over tomorrow, he stares at you like, are you an idiot? Why are you saying she's coming? She's not here. So, because he's assuming present tense. And ancient languages, in Hebrew in particular, did that as well. So what does the Hebrew phrase say? The Hebrew words are eya, asher, eya, and it literally means I will be who or what I will be. So that's the name God said he's to use, that Moses and all generations in the future are to use of his, which is an interesting answer to who are you? Who am I to say sent me? Because as I've said in those other classes, can you think of a more boundless statement? I am Ani's husband. That's a defining role, but I'm also more than that. I'm I don't know. I'm Rafi's. I'm Rafi's dog dad. That's another defining role, but also a limiting one because I'm more than that. So, what could you say about who you are that didn't limit you at all to being any particular thing? That you could be anything, anytime, or all things, all the time. I can't personally think of a better statement than I will be who I will be. So, in a sense, this divine essence of God is revealing to Moses, I'm going to be revealing who I am all along. And I'm going to be whoever I'm going to be as I reveal it. Don't try to grasp it or understand it or put it in a box or make a concept out of it. You can't do it. So it's an interesting teaching. In that single response, there's a lot in that. So the next reading is from Exodus 6:7. I will take you to be my people, and I will be your God, and you shall know that I am the Lord your God. So again, these are future tenses. And your God here is not singular. Your God here is Eloheinu, which is a plural possessive. So if I were to say to you, that's your car, that would mean singular, it's yours, singularly. If I were addressing a group of people, let's say that I bought a car for use in one by one for the community. Wouldn't that be nice? And I would say, this is your car, meaning all of you. This is for the community, or this is for a particular group of people I'm addressing. Plural possessive. So whenever your God is used in Hebrew, or at least in this section, it's the plural form. Now I'm going to give you one other thing I'll come back to that. I'm going to come back to this. I'll finish the readings first. If we have time, I'll come back to this. That I find interesting. I think some of you might too. This is now from Exodus 15:26. If you will, it's future tense again, if you will listen carefully to the voice of the Lord and do what he says and keep his teachings, then I will put none of the diseases upon you that I have put upon the Egyptians, and I will be the Lord your healer. So they're promised to be spared from a lot of the sufferings of the Egyptians if we listen to and heed that voice. Another interesting bit here is that the word in Hebrew for Egypt is Mitzrayim, and it does in fact then and now mean the country of Egypt. Also, then and now, it's just a common Hebrew word that means a place of constriction or bondage. So another very legitimate way to translate this passage is, if you will listen carefully to the voice of the Lord and do what he says, I'm paraphrasing here, then that will be your healer. And you won't suffer what people who are in those places of constriction and repression and denial and some kind of emotional or mental enslavement, of which we all have many that we suffer, I think, mostly self-imposed, that the way out of this place of inner constriction and bondage is to start listening to that divine voice and doing what it says, and that will be what heals us from these places in us. The next one is from the prophet Jeremiah 31:33. This shall be the future tense again. This shall be the covenant I will make with the entire house of Israel. I will place my teachings in their innermost part. I will write it upon their hearts, and then I will be their God, and they will be my people. So now you have a really important spiritual teaching that is covenantal. Sometime we may do a thing on covenant, but a covenant was binding to both parties, and they were considered to be, whether you believe this today or not, they considered that either party breaking this covenant would call down upon themselves very severe curses and afflictions and suffering. So there was a consequence to breaking a covenantal commitment, and it wasn't a good one on either part, if either party broke it. So the idea is not just that God's requiring things of us, but it's a mutual thing, that he's agreeing that we can require certain things of him as well, and that there's a binding commitment there. But that's another story for another time. But I think that's an interesting piece too. It's not just what God's asking of us. And the idea that I will put my teachings in their innermost parts and write it in their heart, then I will be their God and they will be my people. So all of the spiritual, according to this and other passages in the Bible, all of the spiritual teachings that we try to learn and that we try to study and that we try to figure out and we try to come to know, which is good stuff. I mean, I hope you know by now, I do a lot of that. I find a lot of value in it, a lot of wisdom in it, a lot of encouragement and inspiration in it. I mean, look, these are just some of the spiritual books. This is all spiritual orientation, this particular part of the library. Anyway, I find that very valuable. But nevertheless, the reality is that where we come to know the truth and where we carry the truth, because that's where it's been written in us, is in our hearts. So anytime, this is now my interpretation, anytime we act in a way that's contrary to what's in our heart, either by repressing it, by denying it, by taking action out of fear that's not in harmony with what our heart knows is right, we are likely to bring ourselves to suffering. So the last, sorry, there's two more. This is from the New Testament. It's Hebrews 8:10, and it basically says the same thing Jeremiah just said. But now this is said in Jesus' times by his followers. This is the covenant I will make with the house of Israel. Same words. I will put my teachings into their minds. Now it says minds here instead of innermost parts. And write them upon their hearts. And I will be their God and they will be my people. Except for one word. And really the word that's translated as mind in English there doesn't really mean that. It means inner, within. So it's the same. And he's not quoting it. He's giving the same teaching. And the last piece is from Leviticus 19:2. And it's the reason that I'm doing a year-long series on what's called Path of Holiness in the programs here locally. So it says, speak to all the sons of Israel and say to them, you shall be holy because I, the Lord your God, am holy. So now we have an instruction that we're to be holy like God is holy. And there's a whole set of understandings that goes with, well, what does that mean? And how are we supposed to do that? Which is what we address in the ongoing classes. But it connects to all these because these teachings are introductions to how do we live in that way. So I'm going to go back to one that I didn't mention yet, which I find is both interesting and effective if we learn to use it. So even though there's no present tense to be in Hebrew, if you say the word ani, it does mean the singular first person pronoun I. It usually does not mean me. There's a different word for that. It also means present tense. Present tense is assumed. So ani is almost always translated, if there's something after it, if there's a predicate part of the sentence after that, then it's translated not I, it's translated I am. If I were to say ani, let's see, ani ish shel ani, that would mean I, husband of ani. So we would put the am in there. I am the husband of ani. So it is translated as I am. So if we take this I am sent me to you, or I will be who sent me to you, the I am of ani, if we say, and in many places, not where I read tonight, but in many other passages, it says ani yod he vav he Eloheinu. So that means I. Yod he vav he is a word for this boundless, nameless, pure being that we call God. I, God, your God. So we put in this verb, ani yod he vav he Eloheinu. I am the Lord your God. I hope you're with me. I am the Lord your God. Now here's the interesting thing. You could also legitimately in Hebrew make that I am is the Lord your God, which grammatically is problematic in English, but that's legitimate in Hebrew. I am is the Lord your God. So there may well be a teaching in that this I am presence, this essence of what God is, individualized. I am that. I am that. This individualized or ensouled aspect of this boundless being, that I am, this individualized aspect in us, that is the Lord our God, which suddenly takes all of the God stuff from somewhere far off in the heavens, or somewhere far off in the future, or somewhere far off in some other realm, takes it to being right here, right now, which is a powerful teaching. Another application of that I want to mention right before we go into meditation is this. Just at a human psychological level, most of us have issues with something. Commonly, there are self-worth issues, and those manifest primarily in one of two sides of the same coin. The self-worth in terms of worthlessness. I'm not worthy of love. I'm not a worthy person. And to be down on yourself and to always feel inferior and not worthy of God's love, not worthy of other people's love, not desirable, whatever. The other side of that coin is, I am so worthy that I am way better than you. I'm always right. I'm the one that's worthwhile here, not you. And what's important is me, not you. That's just kind of the flip side of the same self-worth issue coin. Issue and coin, that's kind of a funny thing. Anyway, psychologically, we have had lots of experiences from very early childhood through present of people telling us things about ourselves and people making statements that impact us emotionally about ourselves. They can tell us we're too fat, we're ugly, we're stupid, we're no good at math, we're no good at art, we can't sing, we have a lousy voice. We're a great singer, we can sing great. Were you to have talked to my mom, you would probably come away with the idea that everything I said was brilliant and I could do anything I wanted to, anytime I wanted to, because I was so phenomenal. But she felt that way, and she conveyed that. So you probably get the idea that I was good at everything, which of course is absolutely false. But other people's moms, maybe even yours, you might talk to and get exactly the opposite idea. Stephen's a worthless piece of crap. He's never going to amount to anything. He never gets anything right. He screws up everything he does, fails at everything he tries. He's just hopeless and stupid. In a real sense, I'm exaggerating now, of course, but I mean, that's not an exaggeration in many people's lives. They really deal with that kind of stuff, either in childhood or as an adult or as an employee or as a whatever. So we hear a lot of things that have to do with how we feel about ourselves that help shape our self-image and self-understanding. So what does that have to do with the teaching I just said? So think back for a moment, maybe a long way back or maybe more recently, but think for a moment about somebody has told you, let's say that all your life, for whatever reason, not putting the blame on anybody else, just for whatever reason, all your life you've believed you can't sing. You have a lousy voice, you can't carry a tune in a bucket. And therefore, because you don't want to embarrass yourself, you definitely don't want to sing in front of people, like at church when they do sing-alongs or part of a worship service or Christmas carols. You don't want to do that because you're sure your voice sounds terrible. And everybody, even if they didn't mock you, would feel sorry for you. And you don't want to expose yourself for them to that. So you can't sing. And then somebody happens to hear you singing. They eavesdrop, come upon you, you forget yourself and get caught up in the joy of the Christmas carol or whatever and sing, and they hear you go, wow, you have a lovely voice. And they're sincere. They're not patronizing. They're not trying to make you feel good. They really think, wow, you have a lovely voice. And you hear that. But your self-image is, no, I don't. I have an awful voice. They say to you, you, Stephen, have a wonderful voice. I love that. You should sing more. And Stephen, who has this image of, I can't sing and I sound terrible, hears that. I hear it. I hear the words they're saying. I understand all the words they're saying. And I do not receive it. Because my image is, no, I don't. No, I don't. You're wrong. No, thank you. Kind of you. No, I don't. And inside myself, I think, wow, they must have terrible ears to think that my voice sounds good, or they're patronizing me, or they're just trying to make me feel good and be nice, but they know I really don't. I make up all kinds of excuses to not receive that because it doesn't fit with my image of who I am. Now we flip that on the other side. and you think you have a pretty decent voice, and somebody hears you sing and they start laughing and go, whoa, maybe you should take some voice lessons, or maybe you should sing a little quieter when we're all singing, because they clearly don't like the sound of your voice, and you are convinced that you sing well and you enjoy singing, and you hear the words and you understand them, and you don't take that in. It's like, well, that's their opinion, but it doesn't matter to me because I like singing and I sound good. So that's just one person's opinion, and they can have that, but it doesn't matter to me. It doesn't affect you. In either of those cases, it doesn't affect you. This is how it relates to the I am teaching. Here's when it affects you. If somebody says to you, Stephen, you are no good at math, you've never been any good at math, and you never will be any good at math, and when I try to teach you math, you're so stupid that I get really angry and frustrated with you, and it's your fault because you're so stupid. You just shouldn't do math, you're terrible. And they say all that. Here's where that affects me. When I take the words that I've just heard and I say them back to myself, putting the words I am in front of it. I am terrible at math. I am too stupid to ever understand it. I should never let anybody try to teach me that, or they're going to get really mad. Now, it's starting to transform my image of myself. Because now, I've taken it as mine. I am stupid. I am too fat. I am incompetent. I am not lovable. Any of those things. Or conversely, the positive ones. Look, I'm a worthwhile, lovable, kind person. If you don't think so, well, your loss. I am. And I can sing. I enjoy singing. I'm going to sing. I can learn to do math. Maybe it's not the easiest thing in the world for me to learn. I'm capable of learning math. And I'm going to find a teacher who will help me do it. When we put those I ams, it means something. And it starts working within us to conform our image to that which follows I am. So even if you do things, even if you're, let's say that you are a little bit tired and you go to church this Sunday. I'm speaking, by the way, at Unity this Sunday. Let's say you go and you show up at Unity and you feel a little drug out, but not terrible. And somebody says to you, wow, how are you doing? You look kind of tired. Before you physically felt a little tired, a little not quite up to your normal energy level. But now somebody says to you, oh, you look really tired. And if you take those words and just say, they think I look tired, it just kind of washes through you and you move on. But if you take those words and say, wow, I am really tired. I'm like worn out. There will be a difference in how you respond to that. You will start feeling more tired, more fatigued. And then if you say to yourself, wow, I'm more tired than I thought I was, then you get more tired than you thought you were. Because there's something powerful about the I am connecting with a state of being. There's something powerful about that because philosophically, the ground of being is connecting with an individualized state of being. So that's too much to get into tonight, but it may provide some insights. So if we were more careful with how we use the I ams, we might find ourselves suffering a little less and feeling a little bit freer. We often put the I'm expected to do this, or I'm required to do this, or it's that same kind of a thing, as opposed to I'm choosing to do this, or I am being given the opportunity to do this. So, all right. So let's just lay all that to rest for a few minutes and bring our attention inside. And notice there that whatever your body is experiencing right now, whatever's going on emotionally, whatever thoughts you're having, whether it's what I talked about or something completely different because you're off daydreaming somewhere. Whatever's going on inside you at the moment. Notice that there is a self-aware part of you. A self-aware part of you that is conscious of what's going on in your physical body as you sit here. A self-aware part that's conscious of what you're feeling emotionally. It's not that emotion, but it's aware of that emotion. A self-aware part of you that is conscious of thoughts you're thinking and ideas you're having and comparisons and evaluations your minds are making. It's aware, it's conscious of all of that. It's not those thoughts themselves. The thought itself is aware of nothing but itself. You're aware of the creation and movement of those thoughts and the change of those thoughts. This self-aware part of you is not what you're thinking, is not what you're feeling, and is not your body. It's connected to all of them. And it's alert to what's going on in them. That self-aware part is where the I am resides. That's the part that says, I am feeling scared. So now it's describing an emotion that you're aware of having. I am feeling happy. It's describing an emotion you're aware of having. I am feeling achy. You're aware of something going on in your body. I'm feeling really energized physically. I feel great. I feel hungry. I'm thinking, oh, I now understand this passage that I didn't understand before. I'm thinking, oh, I just remembered that I should call up my buddy tonight who I haven't talked to in a while. You're aware of all that. I am aware of. I am feeling this. I am thinking that. I am. The teaching is there's something behind all this experience we're having, which I'm calling soul. But this I am self-aware state of being that is individually you. That's what's being talked about. And holding that and what you direct that's attention to, you empower the thing you direct the I am attention to. I know grammatically that's a little awkward, but I think you got the idea. So let's just begin to move into a more inner quiet and this constant, self-aware, individual being that we are. What is that? What is it to be the soul that you are? What is it to be seated and strongly anchored in that I am consciousness? And how might that shift how you look at things going on in your life? So let this divine, boundless, I will be who I will be, let that resonance vibrate in the individual I am that is you. And just be present with that. And receive its wisdom and peace and love and allow it to grow within the teachings that have already been placed in your heart. So we just slowly begin to allow our attention to come back once more. I am the Lord your God. I am the Lord your God. In your times of sorrow, in your times of fear, I am here. I am, I am the Lord your God. I am the Lord your God. I am the Lord your God. In your times of triumph, in your times of cheer, I am here. I am the Lord your God. I am, I am the Lord your God. I am, I am the Lord your God. So, so thank you for joining me tonight. And for those of you who are in the local area, some of you are already signed up. Not signed up, but some of you are already planning on coming. I'm going to be the guest speaker at Unity this Sunday. So I would invite you to join us for that if you can. And usually they have something afterwards. I should remember, but I don't remember what's happening after the service this Sunday. But often there's something like Ruth has a class, A Course in Miracles, or somebody has a class, or something is usually going on after the service as well. So if you want to make a longer day of it, you can check that out. There isn't always something afterwards, but almost always. So I forgot to look before tonight, so I can't tell you what that is. But surprise, it will be something or nothing. Um, anyway, I hope to see you there. And the topic that I'm going to be talking about Sunday is the Ten Commandments, and and we're not showing the movie or anything, but I think it'll be an interesting one, and maybe a little bit different take on those than you might have heard before, or maybe not. But And for those of you who, again, are in the area, who do come when I teach at Unity, I would like to encourage you to come when I don't also, because Wanda, the new reverend there, is the new minister, is doing I think, a really wonderful job. And I personally find her messages very inspirational and informative and well presented. And so I'm just tickled about it. And if you haven't heard her, I'd invite you to do that. And then periodically other people speak. For example, our dear friend with whom I co-teach The Path of Holiness, Michael Patterson, is going to be one of the speakers on Palm Sunday, along with Susan Heine, who's a licensed Unity teacher. So they're going to co-present something together on Palm Sunday. So that's another date you might want to put in your calendar and try to be there if you're not there regularly. And for those of you who live out of area, move to Fort Wayne. It's we'd love to have you here, and it's a nice group of people. So, but and those of you who are far away, thank you for choosing to spend your Friday evenings connecting with us like this, and to the other online programs as we do them. We're looking at maybe doing something in addition to Friday nights online also. So we'll see how that goes. But alrighty, I guess it's about that time. Thank you for your kind participation and your support as always. And